received some great comments about a video that I put out regarding who I think can help with cervical dizziness. I want to respond to those comments, so let's get into it. But first, I'm the Vertigo Detective, Kim Bell. I'm a licensed physical therapist in San Diego, and I specialize in helping people with dizziness and vertigo. This channel exists to offer hope, information, and education, but it's not individual medical advice. Now let's discuss chiropractic care for dizziness. In my experience, some patients prefer chiropractic care, and so that's why I've learned about this in order to help them. The dizziness typically is going to involve the upper cervical bones, and so that's going to be the first cervical bone right underneath the skull at the very top of the spinal column, called the atlas bone. It can also include the second cervical bone beneath that, called the axis bone, so that's C1 or C2. Typically, chiropractors need to have specialized training in order to treat that. And so there are certain chiropractic techniques that work better than others for dizziness from the neck. I personally have seen probably like 4 or 5 different chiropractors throughout my life. I was in an accident way back in maybe 2006 in the parking lot of the Padres Stadium, actually in downtown San Diego. I got rear-ended. And so I've sought out lots of different care for my neck and neck issues. And I've had a chance to try different chiropractors. And so I know that the techniques chiropractors use vary extremely from doctor to doctor. And therefore, it's really important to make sure that you read online reviews from other patients, that you look up the training, the number of years of experience, and that you understand the type of techniques that a chiropractor might do before you seek their care. Now, I personally do not recommend any snap, crackle, or pop type of adjustments. So any violent thrusts, I'm opposed to that. Why is that? Because during a violent thrust, first of all, it's dangerous, and there are some cases, although very rare, where patients can have arteries, a vertebral artery in their neck actually get torn from a violent adjustment, and that is devastating, causing a major stroke. And so that would be the absolute worst case scenario that can occur with a violent neck adjustment. The second thing is that any kind of really aggressive neck adjustment that's more general and not really a targeted mobilization of a specific joint is going to cause the weak areas to move. So the areas that are already weak or overly stretched are going to give, and the areas that are tight, or what we call hypomobile, so they're the ones that really probably need the targeted care, they're probably not going to budge. So that's why I personally don't let anyone adjust my neck with a snap, crackle, or pop type of an adjustment. I'm very careful about that now after many, many years of experience seeking chiropractic care as a patient. My personal preference as a patient is orthopedic manual physical therapy. And as a clinician, I am a licensed physical therapist, as you know, a doctor of physical therapy. And so I'm going to refer my patients to physical therapy for their neck-related dizziness pretty much 100% of the time. I'm biased towards physical therapy because I am a physical therapist. So I'm always going to suggest orthopedic manual physical therapy first if my patient has dizziness from their neck. And I'm going to choose an orthopedic manual physical therapist who is confident about adjusting the C1 bone, the C2 bone. I want them to be able to check the mandible, jaw bone, which is a common culprit of ringing in the ears, pain in the ears, and dizziness related to the neck, TMJ problems. I want that physical therapist to be able to check those joints on the right and the left side and make sure those are okay. And then I also want that manual physical therapist to be able to check the first rib, which is a common culprit in cases of orthopedic dizziness. And then check all the ribs, check the shoulders. I often find that my patients have limited shoulder mobility, and that's on the side that their neck is affected on. So it's all related. There's so many muscles that connect all these bones together that it can all be related. And if the patient has pain in their low back or their hips or even in one of their feet or ankles, I want that orthopedic manual physical therapist to check them out from head to toe, because maybe they're limping. Like, for example, I have a hip injury from, I think I was born that way. I always had trouble sitting cross-legged on the floor. Even in elementary school, I remember I could never sit on the floor with the other kids in my class comfortably with my legs crossed because I always had pain in my hip. And about 12 years ago, I ended up tearing the joint capsule of my hip just through normal athletic activity. And that's because I was predisposed to this hip injury. And if you ever see me walk, you'll see that I have a little bit of a limp. It's a congenital hip problem. I was born that way. And so that little limp that I have actually makes my C1 bone pop out of alignment frequently. So when I was going to a chiropractor that only adjusted my C1 bone, my C1 kept coming out all the time. When I would get an adjustment, I would get relief from dizziness and migraines for like 24 to 48 hours. And then my C1 bone, my atlas bone, would just come right back out. And I finally asked him, after I'd seen him twice a week for probably 2 or 3 years, why is my neck not staying in place? I had done everything I could think of. I'd fixed my ergonomics. I wasn't hunched over on the phone. I changed my pillow. I did everything I could think of. I was very careful about my motions, and yet my neck still wasn't staying in place. And he said, oh, it's because of your hip injury. Your neck comes out of place while you're walking as a compensation to your limp. And so then I said, well, then can you also treat my hip? And he said, no, I only treat the neck, the C1 bone. And so that's when I realized at that point I needed to look for another provider that was more comprehensive, that could treat my hip and my low back and my ribs and my shoulders and my jaw and my neck all at the same time, plus have that special ability to adjust the upper cervical. And that's how I landed with the orthopedic manual physical therapist I work with now. And I've been working with him for, gosh, I don't know, 8-10 years, something like that, as a patient. And I have so many days now that are pain-free after having chronic pain for, I think, 12 to 14 years. So it really does make a difference to find the right provider. And some of the comments I received regarding my past videos were asking, should I see an orthopedic medical doctor or a chiropractor or a physical therapist? And my answer is, I don't know, because I don't know what's going on with you and your individual case. But I would say, first and foremost, talk to your primary care provider, and then they can recommend an orthopedic doctor if that's what would be appropriate for you. They may order some kind of spinal imaging like x-rays or a CT scan or an MRI of your spine. And then they may choose to refer you to physical therapy. You can also seek out physical therapy directly in most states these days. So you could look online to find an orthopedic manual physical therapy provider and call them to schedule an appointment. And if they need a referral from your provider, from your primary care provider, they'll let you know. But a lot of states now in the US, I think almost every state now, you can go directly to a physical therapist, at least for an evaluation, and then they can work with your doctor to get a referral if they need one. Then the final thing is chiropractors, you can always go straight to them as well. If you find a chiropractor that knows how to adjust the C1 bone and the C2 bone, has experience treating dizziness or vertigo, again, I do not recommend anything that's going to snap, crackle, pop, or thrust your spine. I don't recommend that at all. And I thank the person who commented on one of my past videos saying that she opposed those kind of chiropractic adjustments, because that inspired me to make this video to clarify that I agree with that, and I am not in favor of aggressive, violent, or snap, crackle, pop type of neck adjustments. I just think more care and more caution needs to be taken with the neck. It's a pretty important part of your body with lots of structures in it that can be affected if something were to go wrong. So I would rather you find someone who specializes in more gentle adjustments for the neck and has experience treating dizziness and vertigo. And of course, defer to your primary care provider regarding your individual case. So I hope that was helpful as I clarify my thoughts on chiropractic care for dizziness and what my experience is as a patient and what my recommendations are as a provider to my patients. So God bless.